Welcome to my show. A guest here. His name is Joe Taranto. Mr. Joe, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
And also, thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. Firstly, you are an author. You are also a lifelong bicycling adventure. Can you please, Mr. Joe, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mr. Joe?
Well, I am a retired aerospace engineer, operations manager that became a full-time bicycler and author in retirement. Wasn't quite the path I thought I was going to be doing, but that's what I felt God led me to do, and so that's where I'm at. And so much of my time now is spent writing and editing. Uh, I just Probably it's been almost 2 years since I finished writing through all 50 states. And so now I got to write about all 50 states. And sometimes it takes longer to write and to edit than it does to bike them. But that's what a lot of my life persists right now is around that.
Exactly. It is definitely more beautiful to actually have a long distance things and also bicycling as well. It makes it sound very much attractive to actually drive more and also listen to as well. And also as a person who have adventure a lot when it comes to bicycling, have you written any book or are you planning to write any book in the coming future, Mr. Joe?
Uh, Let me go back to the book that I finished here last year, just was published. It's called Pale Pink Roads. That was my second book. And that covered really the first 14 states that I rode through. I had another book that I wrote several years ago that was about one particular trip, and it's more of a devotional style based on the 23rd Psalm. Um, so now I am just submitted a manuscript, and the editor is working on it, and I've got a girl working on the cover for me that will cover the next 36 states. And then I've got several other books planned. I'm a little bit about two-thirds of the way through another one. And a lot of it deals with bicycling, and it's kind of in the United States. This is the 250th year of our the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and so I'm kind of writing a book that kind of deals with that experience as I went through each state. Um, yeah, I've got a lot. Probably I've got a lot more planned than I will do, but that's where I'm at right now. I've got two books published, and a third should come out later on this year.
Definitely. It shows how beauty, a lot of things that you've actually brought out on board has actually impacted the bicycling industry and also other areas as well. And also having the imagination to cycle over the state, most especially in a very huge country like the United States, is so much admirable, to be honest with you, Mr. Joe. And that is why I would like to ask how you think traveling by bicycle over long distance, how do you think it's changed the way you experience or the way you experience time, people, and the world around you, Mr. Joe?
Well, I can give you the obvious answer, and that is that it takes a lot longer to travel by bicycle. Um, but it's interesting. Sometimes I will ride to a place, and then I have to drive back, rent a car, and it's almost about 1 hour to each day that I bicycled. And it's interesting. I see these places as I go, and I remember, boy, I was having trouble there, or I was tired, or this was a good place, or I remember stopping there. But it goes by in an hour, whereas before I would do 50 to 60 miles. So you're about 100 kilometers sometimes a day. And it does take a lot longer. But then I also think about the experience. Many people have flown in airplanes, and sometimes I can cover the whole distance if it's say a 750-kilometer trip that gets done in an hour when you fly over it in an airplane. And it's also interesting to think about too, as I think about that question. It's a good question. Um, the way you interact with people differently on an airplane. You basically talk to people that are doing their jobs, the people that check you in, that take your luggage, that uh, allow you to get on board the plane, the stewardess that helps you, and you might interact with the people that are sitting next to you on your plane, but that's about it. And it's a very, very limited interaction. When you're traveling by car over long distances, um, you may not talk to many people at all. You may stop to go to a restroom. You may do a drive-through to a fast food restaurant. But if you're in a hurry, you may not take enough time. Whereas bicycling, people see you pull in on a bicycle and you're out in the middle of a desert or you're out in the middle of places that don't normally see bicyclists, and they talk to you. They ask you what you're doing. And when you're on a bike, I like to take a longer break. And so I slow down, and so people can interact with me. So it's just a lot different experience, not only with what you see and also with what's important. Well, when you're on an airplane, what's important is making the next flight. If you have a connecting flight, it's important that you don't have any delays. Um, on a car, you want to make sure you have gasoline in your car so that you don't run out of gas. Whereas on a bicycle, you're kind of watching the weather, make sure that's okay. You're watching, do I have enough fluids that I'm carrying? Do I have enough food, to keep me? That's my fuel is food. So you're worried about different things. So it's a good question, and there's a lot of different ways you can look at that. But I enjoy the bicycling just because you do get the chance to meet people and see things differently than you would by other ways of travel.
100%, because when one is bicycling, one is actually dealing with nature, because it's more of the position when we are in the aeroplane, as you said, or when we are actually driving a car. We are actually doing it automatedly. At least something is actually driving those things. But when we are on a bicycle, we are actually connecting ourselves and actually giving the ride that we actually need, which is more of a source with nature, and also give us the position to see our surrounding very much differently. And as we said earlier, it takes more longer. And that is why that is the beauty of it, because when we do something that actually takes such longer and also such time as well, it gives us the time to actually reflect and also view the community at large, and also give a sense of different way of thinking as well. And that is why I would also like to drive for people who feel stuck in the phase or in the fast pace of daily life. What can the slower rhyme of the road teach us about presence, persistence, and perspective, Mr. Joe?
That's another good question. I think what it teaches you, uh, particularly persistence, is that it's just you can't get too far ahead of yourself. You can't worry about what's going to happen, the difficulties that might be coming up in 2 days. You just have to stay in the moment because at any moment in time, if you lose concentration, if you're on a busy road, you could put yourself in a dangerous situation. And when I talk about persistence, it really just amounts to just one pedal stroke at a time. That's what's going to get you there. It's not that you have so many more miles or kilometers to cover. You just need to focus on getting to the next, section of the road to just keep moving forward. And that persistence is what really I think for me that's the part of it is it just what you can accomplish by doing a small thing repeatedly. It relates to your everyday life too. When you're not bicycling, it's small habits that you repeat over and over again that help you develop and do good or even great things uh, by just doing a habit. Physical exercise. Um, sometimes we look at somebody who's really physical fit and say, "Oh, I could never get there," but they didn't get there, on day one. It took a lot of persistence, and that's the same way with bicycling. Is that you just have to have that patience and that persistence to just keep moving forward. And sometimes it's difficult. Um, and again, for me, it applies to a lot of areas of my life too. Is I think back when I was working full time. I remember you're busy and you've got multiple deadlines and multiple responsibilities, and I was an engineer at the time, and somebody said, "Could you come out and help me with this? We don't understand your instructions on how to do this." And I thought about I could try to explain it on the phone because I didn't want to take the time to go walk back to the shop. And then I said, "You know what? I just finished you know, running um, 10 miles on Saturday on the weekend, and then I went for a 50-mile bike ride, I can certainly take 5 minutes to walk back there. So it kind of reinforces just being persistent and taking time to do things.
Exactly. That you said is all. Persistence is one of the most important thing when someone actually want to cycle. And you've actually made several points when it comes to our journey, the destination, and also our daily life as well. Presence and also our perspective as well. When we are actually trying to actually create the sense of journey when it comes to long distance, and also create the sense of visibility and also endurance as well, despite how we are actually feeling the more pressure when actually trying to connect with nature when also cycling as well. And also, we would just like to know what actually you've been taught about yourself and what you've actually learned as well. What are long bicycle journeys taught you about yourself that you may never have discovered if you had stayed in familiar and comfortable places, Mr. Joe?
Well, the one thing that I've discovered, and it's only been recently, and it's probably one of the reasons why I'm here speaking with you, that I was a engineer, I was a chemist, and I did a lot of stuff by myself. And I realized I'm not as much of an introvert as I was, or at least I thought I was. And so by bicycling, um, when you're faced with difficulties, sometimes you need to reach out to people and take a more active role in the conversation and not and be able to speak up. Um, and by bicycling, I think it gave me the confidence that I could do things that I never thought I could do. When I first started bicycling, I had very limited goals. My first trip, I thought, let me see if I can do 100 miles in a day, 160 kilometers in one day. And it was difficult. And when I got done, I said, well, I'm never going to do it again. Well, I did do it several times after that, but it gave you that confidence. And I learned that I could do more than what I thought I could do. And it is it has just helped me as a person to come out, um, particularly at the end of some of one of my long trips. I really felt like I wanted to write a book about just the bicycling adventures, the what it was like to be on the road. And I really felt like I felt like God was talking to me about putting a devotional together on that. And it helped me. I mean, I was a had concerns on the trip about some of the dangers I was experiencing going through the deserts and the mountains and lonely roads. And by accomplishing that, I'd prayed for safety, and I felt like I made it, that I should be willing to be more outspoken about my faith and talk about my faith, and that helped me get through that and really kind of break out of some of my introverted personality and become more outspoken. And that's just been within the last few years. So I think that's probably one of the bigger changes for me. And again, being willing to take on challenges. I mean, I did. I always thought, well, I could knew I could bicycle a certain distance. Well, then I had a crazy idea that I qualified to run the Boston Marathon, and I ran that. And then I did a 500-mile bike ride, or say a 750-kilometer uh, bike ride after that. And I wasn't sure I could do it, but I did, and it gave me the confidence to do some other things as well.
Exactly. You make the one of the most important points, self-discovery. It makes us to be in the position to realize one or two things about ourselves. And as you said, a person who is more introverted and have actually accepted he or she is in that perspective has actually discovers one or two things or also qualities one had as well. And that shows the beauty of nature. When we are cycling, it's something that we can try our best to do. But when we are cycling, we are always in the position to actually see the vulnerabilities because we actually see ourselves as a sense of reflection. We are not trying to control anything. We're only trying to control the pedal and also other things as well. And when we see ourselves within who we really are, a sense of reflection, and also bring us to the position whereby we can discover ourselves, see one or two things that we are actually 100% good about. And it shows and always usually shows the power of nature as well. I would just like to drive to how you think spending extended time on the road, how you think it shapes the way a person sees challenges, how you think it shapes a person sees simplicity, and how you think and what you think truly matters in life as well, Mr. Joe.
Well, for me, it was kind of embracing the challenge. I mean, I've always wanted to try to better myself, whether it was educationally, whether it was on the job, whereas being a husband or a parent. Um, and so I never was satisfied with what I had accomplished. And so after the first couple rides, I started thinking, boy, you know what? Long term, maybe I could bicycle across the United States. Well, uh, I was busy working and I just out of college and I didn't really have the time to take. And then you have a family and, the time disappears. So I had to do it in several different trips. But that's what, for me, it actually was by doing that in different seasons of my life, it helped me reflect on bicycling in a different way. I realized how silly I was with some of the things that I did early in my bicycling career as to where I thought I knew what I was doing later. And then when I failed, uh, I realized I didn't fail. I just learned. There were lessons learned, and I learned a way to accomplish the same thing by changing some things in the way I did them. So, and when you talk about simplify, I've never really tried to make bicycling very complex. I've tried to limit the amount of gear that I would take. I know a lot of people they have and they travel differently. And so if you're and I don't camp, so they have to do things differently. But for me, it makes it simple. I just need to find the next hotel or the motel or a place to stay, and I don't have to carry all the camping stuff. But one of my trips, I was in Massachusetts, and I went to Walden Pond, where the American writer Henry David Thoreau spent a lot of time and wrote a book there. And one of his books contained a phrase that really resonated with me, and it was simplify, simplify. And he spent a lot of time in nature out there at the pond, and it was beautiful when we were there. And it was quite an unreal experience to think I had bicycled there and I was experiencing the same thing that he did. And his words, simplify, simplify, just stuck with me. Is that this is such an easy, I back up, it's not an easy way, but it's such a beautiful way to experience the country in a very simplistic manner. Just two wheels and a chain and pedals and the handlebars and some brakes, and you can go through all 50 states by doing that. And so I've never tried to get too complex the way I travel. I've just tried to keep it to the very minimum amount of gear. Some people like to spend a lot of money on special things, but I just try to keep it very, very limited because the less technical things I have with me, the less technical things that can go wrong. And so I really enjoyed that. The simplify, simplify quote probably best is a very, very good summary of how I like to travel.
And to be honest with you, Mr. Joe, that is one of the most important thing, or that is one of the thing that we've actually missed in our time today. People are now in the position whereby several people now in the position whereby simplicity becomes something more difficult to actually handle, probably due to the influence of what we see out there. We could access anything through the social media. We could see what is going on around the world within seconds, and it has actually changed the mindset of people around us as well. And we have to understand that simplicity is one of the greatest gifts that we can actually own within our life. No matter how little it is, no matter how huge it is, no matter how it is, we just need to have a life of simplicity. We have to see some things as something little. We have to maintain what we have. We have to embrace it. We have to also be proud of the little that we're actually building upon as well. Those simplicity really matters. We shouldn't be looking at things that are up there. Some people can do anything to just get to some certain position, and it doesn't really matter. All we have to understand in this world is we are always imagined. We are in the next phase of the generation as well. And for us to actually live a life of simplicity, we have to actually embrace and also live with the little and also things that we can also build upon as well. And I sincerely appreciate you for actually bringing out this conversation and also your cycling adventure, cycling around the United States and other areas as well, to actually bring out this discoverable activities and also having the opportunity to have this insight and also conversation as well. Mr. Joe, there is also a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our forefathers' time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, what do you think that thing will be, Mr. Joe?
Wow, that's something that really resonates with me as well. Because one of the things when you're out riding a bicycle, uh, you begin to connect with nature in ways that you don't in a car, and you realize how, for us, going through the same areas that the Native Americans, how they traveled, how you sensed the wind, how you knew um, conditions were changing based on how you well you were out there. And I would know that particularly some areas, if I knew that I was going downhill to get to a town, well, that's because that's where the water flowed. And I knew how to understand that there was also going to be a climb when I finished that town. Um, just the beauty of the nature that I saw, particularly out in the West where it wasn't as developed, and to be able to experience that part of the country in the way that some of the Native Americans did was just amazing. It would be so quiet at times, and you would hear the wind out there, and you could understand how people could just feel the presence of nature out there in a way that we don't today. And as you go through the cities, it's a whole different experience. Uh, but yeah, I think it for me, it just helped me by cycling to kind of relate to how people traveled, you know, hundreds, thousands of years ago, and what they relied on, what was important to them, food. I mentioned before, when you're in a car, you just get off, you go to a service station, you fill up with gas, and you're gone. Whereas a bike, you might be carrying your water and your food. And what becomes important is I need to find a shaded area and there's a tree and I can sit down and it's quiet and you can feel the wind. Or if sometimes there's no wind and it gets very quiet, you can hear animals out and it just is a whole different experience depending on where you're at. And again, it's different in the cities and you experience it differently, but it is so much simpler when you're out in a lonely place in a desert and you're by yourself. Sometimes it can be eerie, but that's where I felt that I prayed for safety and comfort, and I felt that that's where God supplied that and gave me the ability to do this.
Exactly. Our connection with nature is one of the greatest source for us. It is one of also the deepest healing that can actually help us as well. Our body is actually the physical part, and also our inner self is one of the greatest pressure we can have in life. And that is the beauty of cycling. Because cycling doesn't need a machine or it doesn't need something that we need to control. We just need to do it with our strength, and it helps us to energize ourselves and also help us to be in the position to connect with nature, to connect with the source, to connect with things that will actually bring us the deepest healing of our soul. It makes us to build a sense of resistance. It helps us to build a sense of patience. It also helps us to see the world in a different way. Because imagining ourselves, because we have to be honest, imagining ourselves to actually cycle around, seeing different people, sometimes I'm very sure you have seen people who have a lot of money, riding a lot of expensive things, and you actually pass through the sense of what you have and also the connection to nature. All those things are various experiences one will gather and one will continue to put in ourselves out there to actually build the nature and also build the healing and also strength that he or she is also having as well. And Mr. Joe, I want to also use this opportunity to thank you for the time and the opportunity for us to have this profound and insightful conversation today. Thank you so much, Mr. Joe.
Thank you for having me. And you sound like you're a person who has bicycled at least once or twice in your life as well. So
Exactly.
stay safe out there, and I hope to be on the continent where you're at some point in time to do some bicycling as well. It sounds like a real challenge, but the good Lord willing, one of these days I'll be there.
Exactly. Nobody knows what happened tomorrow. So we do hope if we are opportune, definitely. I also sent, all right, I thought I will know the Mr. Joe. Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye.